Hello, welcome to Have a Tea with me. Are you learning English and do you need some speaking practice, some conversation practice? This is the place for you. Every day, Monday to Friday, we are here at 12 o'clock Universal Time to practice English, practice speaking English, practice conversations, whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. While no one else is here, I just talk to myself basically. But if you click on the link that's in the comments and in the chat, you can join the conversation. You click on that link and you come through to the studio, and we can talk here live on the stream. So yes, if you'd like to do that, by all means, click on through. I'm not sure if people say that, but it sort of makes sense to me. It makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to put that link in again. Let me. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be in the chat. Okay. Okay, it's really interesting. Okay, oh, I got that. Okay. Alrighty, we are there. I hope you're having a good day, despite what's happening in the world these days. It's very I'm not sure what the word is. Good and bad things happening in the world. We see humanity rising to the top in the worst moments. Sometimes, unfortunately, it takes these bad moments to see how people help each other. I see it in with people in Europe helping out people in Ukraine or coming from Ukraine. A difficult situation there, very difficult situation. People leaving their homes, maybe losing everything. I see, not to the same extent, perhaps, not perhaps with the same sort of feeling exactly, but with terms of natural disasters, I see the same thing in Australia with lots of floods and people losing their homes and their livelihoods at the moment as well. It's difficult times, but then I say we see people banding together, people helping each other out, and that's a very a nice thing to see. And like I say, perhaps we tend to see it more in terms of peril, when people are in danger or really need help. So I'm not, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But people band together to help each other. Absolutely, they band together. So they're working together. And interesting, another word, another expression that I've been hearing quite a lot now, although you hear it sometimes in general, because you hear people talk about the sanctions against Russia, but then sometimes it could be in terms of sanctions, but you can also hear it with other things. But you might hear, if you're looking at English language reports, you might hear this: tit for tat. The tit for tat reactions, tit for tat sanctions, tit for tat reprisals, whatever. I guess another expression that we have sort of that's with a similar sort of idea that you may know, is an eye for an eye. So basically, you do one thing, you do something to us, we're going to do something to you or against you because of that. So you'll see tit for tat. Yeah, so a tit for tat reaction, or a tit for tat policy, or a tit for tat action. Just in general, you might, because I think yesterday there was that report about, and this is, I guess, the most common way that you will see something like this, is when they were talking about the some Russian diplomats or people working in the embassies or something like that, in working in America, have been told they have to leave. And so people were, so in the media, they were speculating if there was going to be any tit for tat reaction from the Russians. And so that means they're worried about, or talking about, worry is another thing, but they're talking about if, because the Americans said, okay, the people from your embassy, they have to go, or some people have to go. If the Russians will say, oh, people from your embassy, they have to go. So that's a tit for tat. So you do something, I do something. So you might see that in the news when you're reading some reports. Hello, Sonia. In Argentina. How are you going today? I got your email from yesterday. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. It's true. I wasn't here yesterday. We had some technical difficulties, as can happen. But all's well that ends well. I hope you're doing well, Sonia. Sonia, I had a question actually, because and I don't see if this is going to be a good or a bad thing to say. But I'm curious about, because Argentina is a Spanish-speaking country, of course. So I'm curious. I'm currently in another Spanish-speaking country, and I was wondering, and I see this quite a lot, and I find it quite amusing. So I'm curious if the same thing happens in Argentina. And I know it's hard to say, like, for a whole country, like some people may do something and other people not, and that sort of thing. But I was wondering, I sit in a cafe, yeah, and I drink a coffee or a tea or whatever, and there's like someone on one side of the cafe talking to a person on the other side, and like they're talking loudly, so like almost shouting. I would say it's shouting, but let's say almost shouting, because it's not really screaming, but it's talking very loudly. And so they're talking loudly to each other because they're far away. Like one's on one side, another's on the other side. And I can understand that. It's a little bit annoying, like when people are that far apart, and it's like they just continue the conversation. But the funny thing is, then they come together and they speak at the same volume. And I find that so funny, because I'm like, you're right next to each other. I mean, and I just wonder if that's the same in Argentina, or common, let's say, if it's common for people to do that in Argentina, to speak at a very high volume when they're standing really close to each other. And I wonder if it's just out of habit more than anything else, because I know, like, if you're in a room and there are lots of people, the noise can get very loud, so people have to learn to speak loud to be heard. And I get that, I get that, I understand that, I get that. So let's write that down. I get that. I understand that. So I get that, but I don't know. I just wonder if, because people don't, or some people can't make that adjustment when when they're close together and there's no one else around. There's just me sitting down, sipping on a cup of tea, and those two other people in the big cafe. So I'm not sure. I'm curious to, like I say, I'm curious to see if that happens in other countries or if it's just where I am. But I don't know, I have a feeling it's in other countries as well. But I have to say, I don't see it as much in non-Spanish speaking countries. Not that I've been to all the countries, of course, but that's something that I have noticed. Okay, again, so just a reminder. This is Have a Tea with Me. We are here for English language learners. If you're learning English, you want to practice English, you want to speak English, we are here for you to practice speaking. The program is called Have a Tea with Me. Lesson Jigsaw is the channel, and we are here Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock Universal Time. So all you've got to do is click on the link in the comments. You can come through and have a chat. Simple as that. You'll also see scrolling down the bottom. If you would like to have a chat, but this time is not good for you, send us an email, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. Let us know, where you are, your time zone, what you like to talk about, and like the days and times when you would be good for you, and we can see if we can arrange a time. So chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. Let's see. I suppose that depends. It depends on the people. Absolutely, it depends on the people. Well, yeah, okay. So as I was like we say, it's like we can't always generalize with everyone, but certainly you can depend on different people if they do that. But I do tend to notice that. I find it just really amusing. There's that, and so it's like speaking loudly when they're close together. And I also find that they have an inability to whisper. I see this a lot with people, and it's like they're talking to me, and I was like, it's like, we need to be quiet. And it's like, were they just talking like normal? I'm like, okay, but it's like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We have to speak quietly. Like, yeah, okay, yeah. I'm like, it's just, so this is like another way of saying, because if you say they can't do something, so that they can't whisper, this is another way to say that they have an inability to whatever it is. So it's instead of saying they can't whisper, maybe they can and they just don't. That might be the case. So let's see. So in my country, there are people who speak in a loud voice, but it's not generalized. Okay. So maybe it's like you say, it depends on the situation. Depends on the situation. Just as a note there, because we do some corrections occasionally. So a loud voice, let's say, speak in a loud voice. Say a loud voice is obviously a voice that's very high. Others speak in a, say a low voice. Say a low voice, but yeah, they speak in a low voice. I need to read this article aloud. So just as a note there is that this can be a bit tricky. This is sort of like when you see every day and every day. So it can be a bit tricky. So just as a note, So voice is a countable noun, and so loud is the adjective. But to speak aloud is the way that you say something. So you could, for example, say something like you say it in your head. So you read it to yourself is the opposite. So read something to yourself. But to speak aloud is to vocalize something. So just make a note with that space. Similar to everyday is an adjective here. So for example, I better take that away so you can see. I go to the supermarket to buy everyday things, everyday stuff. So it's like common things. Stuff, just to vary it. So like you might buy milk. I guess they're the common things: milk, bread, sugar, salt, pasta, whatever you buy. But I go to the supermarket every day. And this is an adverb. This is the frequency that you go. Because I go to the supermarket every day, and it could of course be every week, every Tuesday, every morning before 11, whatever it could be. But in this case, it's every day. So just as a note, see, it's a bit, I say a bit tricky sometimes with that space. It's actually one thing you see a lot of is a lot. It's actually not a word. Let's say a lot of things. Let's say, let's make it a sentence. There are a lot of things to do today. But you will see a lot of native speakers write a lot. There we go, that was the correction. You see a lot. And it shouldn't be done, really. It's like with many things, it's understood. Like with many native speakers, they say a lot of things that if you look at the books of English in terms of how things should be said and that sort of thing. A lot of English native speakers don't speak the way things are taught in the book. This is why it's a problem sometimes when I tell students, oh, look, go out and speak to people and practice. And it's like they come back and they go, oh, yeah, but they didn't say anything like we see in the books, that sort of thing. And that's very true. So that's why I try and emphasize the most important thing is to be understood rather than necessarily getting everything correct. Because it's not fair anyway, is it? Why do people learning a language as a second or additional language necessarily have to get the grammar correct if the people who speak it as a first language don't get all the grammar correct anyway? So I think that's fair is fair. I say that in jest. I say that in jest. That's an expression you could use. It's like saying I'm telling a joke. It could be partly in jest. In jest. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, lots of, as we were saying, lots of things happening in the world. But let's backtrack, shall we, a little bit. Let's get back to school. I'm not sure when when school starts in your part of the world. In Australia, it tends to be after when summer's finishing, well, sort of finished, summer holidays finishes. which tends to be towards the end of January. January is the last week of January, first week of February is when people go back to school. But of course, in different parts of the world, it's different. I know in Europe, and I think in America, they do it like from September, October, something like that. But other parts of the world, I'm not sure. But certainly, we go to school at different times. Yeah, and we separate, I guess, the way we go to school differently. I know some places in the world they have 3 terms. Other places have 4 terms, and maybe others have more. I don't know. So the term being like the collection of months, if you like. So you have like a group of months for the first section, and then you have like a little break, little holiday, maybe for a week or so. Then you have the second term, and then a similar sort of thing. So they could break it into 3 or to 4 terms, depending on how many breaks they want in the year. Okay, so tell me, what do you associate with school? When you think of school, what do you think of? I do have a tea with me. It's a little bit too hot still, and I'm thinking I have to move to iced tea pretty soon because it's getting quite hot outside. So hard to drink a hot drink on a hot day sometimes. In Argentina, students are enjoying the last days of their vacations. Are these the big vacations for like since the end of the last school year and they start a new school year, or is this like they're going to start like just a new term, but they've already had a part of the school year? I suppose it also depends on what religions, I guess, or religion is dominant in a particular country, and then they may have different. Because a lot of the breaks, so the term breaks, are based on different religious celebrations throughout the year. So that also is a factor. That's a factor too. That's a factor too. That's a factor too. That's a factor too. It's a factor too, like that. That's a factor too. So students, let's make it a question. Students returning from, actually let me pull that up a bit. Students returning from the end of year phase, or let's say just a term break. When I say just, because I don't have to say just, but here it's good to add just because you think of the end of year holidays as a bigger amount of holidays. I'm not sure where you are. In Australia, it tends to be, I think, about 6 weeks. Generally, depending on what year you're in, could be like 6 weeks in general, 6, maybe 7 weeks. But I know other countries have like months, like 2 months, 2.5 months for the end of year. That's the end of, let's say, the end of school year. School year or school year or school year or academic year. You might also hear. academic year sounding a little bit more formal, but it is the same thing. I guess also more general, because if it's not a school, if it's like a college or a university, it's easier to say just academic in general. So I say end of school year because you can also have other end of years, because it could be the end of the calendar year. It could also be the end of the financial year. So the end of financial year could be maybe like when you have to do your tax returns and that sort of thing to let the government know how much money and that sort of stuff. Okay, so we have another example. So other academic, we can also say scholar. So students will start a new scholar year. Okay, wow. So that's in March. So I wonder when they had when they broke for holidays. I wonder if that was in December. Okay, so they are returning from the end of school year. Okay, so that's interesting. So they're starting in, I wonder if that's like a 2-month or more break, because it wouldn't surprise me if it's sometime in December, sort of maybe like the last couple of weeks of December, and then having January and February as a holiday. And so if they're going back to school now, okay, that must mean a pretty intensive school year. But I guess it's also not necessarily time in the classroom that makes the difference. It's freeing the mind as well for people. Okay. So what else do you associate when you think of school? I guess you sort of see in the picture there, they have some items. I guess we think of the desks there. This is the more modern school, isn't it? I remember when I went to school, well, this is maybe more of the high school. I remember because with high school, I think in general, in most countries I've seen, the students go from class to class. Whereas in primary school, you tend to have the one classroom. So you would have the desks where you could put the books inside and that sort of thing. Or you could have like a little locker there as well. You could have a locker, or let's say the students could have a locker or a pigeonhole to put their stuff in, or a place to keep their books and things in. At school, I know with pigeonhole, we tended to use that more for the teachers, but there were some places, because a locker, with the name sort of gives it away, because you have lock in the name. So with a locker, you can lock it. But with a pigeonhole, it's just basically like a square or a rectangle sort of shape, and it's just a space where you put stuff in. Okay, yeah. So teachers, students, buildings, whiteboards, books, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely, absolutely. I listed a few things. Let's see if we can make this a bit bigger here. Let's take that away for a second. Some of these it's a little bit complicated to look at this. Some of these are good, sometimes not. these little word clouds. But I made a few of them here. I guess one thing that the kids really like with school is that they can go and see their friends again. Sometimes they see them outside of school, but other times maybe not. They just do different things or in different parts of town, or maybe go away on holidays, or whatever it may be. So good to see their friends. So I'm going to the dictionary. The dictionary, and just near my head there at the bottom, you've got thesaurus. So the dictionary for the meanings and the thesaurus for other words. In Argentina, the schools don't have lockers. Wow, okay. So we didn't have lockers in primary school, but we had lockers in high school. But I think because the problem is, if you have, I think if my memory serves me correct, it's a great little expression. Let's get that down. Let's get that down. Okay. If memory serves me correct, I say correctly, but this is more the expression I would say. If memory serves me correct, we had 8 periods in a day. So the 8 periods were the lessons that we have. So I'm pretty sure it was 8. And if you had 8 different subjects in those periods, you'd have a very, very heavy bag. If you got, because you'd have your folders, sometimes books, and then if you've got your textbooks and workbooks, you could have a lot of stuff that you're carrying. Although nowadays I see a lot of the kids with the like a trolley bag, basically. Trolley bag, sort of like you see with the luggage and that sort of stuff. So instead of carrying it on the backs and breaking the backs, they do that. But certainly, yeah. And I guess the other thing is, if you have things like lockers, then you also have maintenance of the lockers. Now, you might see note there, but the reason I put note was for it didn't join this together, but it's for sick note. I'm sure this is pretty much everywhere. If you can't go to school, you need to bring in a sick note from your parents or guardian or whatever the case may be, to explain your absence. So let's get that down. So you needed to bring in a sick note to explain your absence. The sick note had to be signed by a parent or guardian. Bring in a sick note. And nowadays, I think I guess I was in school in a less technological age. Nowadays, you have all I think they said messages and that sort of thing. And so I've seen in some places where the parents need to log in and say, "Oh, my child is sick today," and things like that. So, yes. What else is there? You got subjects. eraser, backpack, so the old backpack, but the trolleys now, assignments, excursions, what else? Quizzes, the canteen. I'm not sure if many schools have different things with the way lunch or recess is approached. I would more often than not, it was actually very hardly ever would I get stuff from the canteen. It was a treat. It was a treat for me. Other kids, they went to the canteen every day, but it was a treat for me to get something from the school canteen. And normally it was nowadays maybe a bit more mixed, but certainly it was normally the different mothers would be helping out in the canteen making stuff. If they were, I'm not sure if they were paid or maybe given like a small amount as like a little thank you for helping out or something like that. But I think there was like maybe a couple workers, maybe that was it, couple workers, and then you had some mothers helping out like on a rotation sort of thing. Yeah, so you get something from the school canteen, and normally the price was pretty good. But I know other places have like a canteen where you have a tray and you go along and you select the food, or you get the food put on a tray for you. I know that's in many countries. I remember seeing a report about schools in France, and they had proper chefs in the school to make sure that the kids got a nutritious they had nutritious meals. If it was sometimes for breakfast, but mainly for lunch. And so that was important. I know there are some schools where they do give, if some families aren't in the best situation, let's say, some families or kids aren't in the best situation. Say sometimes some schools would provide a free breakfast and, well, let's say breakfast and or lunch. This is a euphemism, because a lot of times in English we don't like to make things sound as bad as they are, and we try to make it sound less intense and weaker, let's say, to sometimes to sound nicer. So maybe the family has no money, or the for whatever reason the parents aren't in a situation where they can help or don't help or whatever, have their own issues. And so for something like that, we can say they aren't in the best situation. So basically they're in a bad situation. And the schools would give them a free breakfast or lunch. And or lunch. That sort of thing. So Sonia, in my country, there are serious problems in our scholar system. Sadly, the pandemic has increased the situation. What are the problems with the system, Sonia? Problems in what way? In terms of the quality of the education, or is it a problem in terms of what they teach? Like the actual curriculum, what's included is bad, or is it a case of just the atmosphere, or there are too many. Maybe there are too many students in the class. I know I've seen I'm not sure if this was in China, maybe it was somewhere else. I can't remember, but I remember seeing in some schools where there was like 50, 60 kids in the class. I can't remember where that was. That was like, you just, of course, the teacher, you can't give personalized teaching. Yeah, even like I've had some schools where you've had, not very often. I don't teach like in like public schools and that sort of stuff, but even like sometimes like with 30 kids, it's a lot, and I really do admire those teachers in primary and high school. It's a very difficult thing to manage, not just all of the kids, but then also the let's say managing the bureaucracy, managing the red tape. It's difficult for teachers to manage the red tape. The red tape is like maybe the department, the school department or education department, or could be like the principal or different types of administration where they need to do reports or, different types of filings and that sort of thing. But like normally, I guess for many positions, but for a teacher, you expect to do like some reports and some assessments. But these days, I'm not sure about Argentina or some other countries, but I know a lot of countries have gone, assessment crazy. They want to assess everything all the time. And not everything is a test. Or sorry, not everything should be a test. But making everything a test, in my opinion, is not a great situation. Then again, making things a test is also a good money spinner. Let's get that down. Let's go to that next page. Tests and exams can be a good money spinner. So it can earn a lot of money for the schools and for different companies and agencies to prepare to do the little books or the books to practice the exams, to do them online, to get extra tutors and stuff to prepare for the exams. I find it amazing how many times they want to assess kids, and for a lot of universities, they make a lot of money from exams. You'll find this with, I don't know about how many other things, certainly with languages, there's a lot of exams, but there are with other things as well. I know in Australia, they like to do the test to compare with how we're going with everyone else, other countries and other states and that sort of thing. But yes, but it's a good little money earner to do those exams. So I'm a bit skeptical about the intentions of those exams. So we had desks. There was a couple words there that didn't match up exactly the way I wanted it to. Let's see. Have roll call. I assume they have this in most countries. So the roll call is when they're Normally it's at the beginning of the day and sort of halfway through the day, but sometimes in each individual class as well, particularly in high school when you're moving from class to class. So the roll call is basically the roll is the list of students in that class or in the year, or there may be we did it in Australia, we had like a roll call class. So it was basically alphabetical groups. So like the first 30, then the next 30, and so on. And they'd basically just go alphabetical. And then for roll call, in the morning, we had roll call and we had reading. So you would read for you get to school and then you do reading for the first 30 minutes. And then the teachers would sometimes be very careful and very eagle-eyed. To be eagle-eyed. So they would watch very carefully to see if students were actually reading. It was one thing to be reading, not talking. Well, I guess they can hear that. But also not doing homework. If students were doing homework during roll call, could be not a good thing. The other thing was the class clown. Class clown. And that was the person who was always trying to make a joke or try and be silly or whatever. Or the person who tried to show off all the time. Class clown. I pretty much assume everywhere there's a class clown in every class. And if that person goes away, then another one comes, or someone changes and they step up. Hello to Farman, how you going? Hope you're having a good day or good evening for where you are. Just chatting about schools and stuff on today's show. Have a tea with me. Nice word. We like this word, Sonia. The quality decayed in the last year. That's a great word, decay. That's what we think about decay normally, I guess, with teeth. We think of tooth decay. So it's like the parts of the teeth going away. So there's actual less of the tooth. But it's a very good word. Oh, I love that. So the quality of the education that was given has been taken away. It's less quality. That's a great word. That is the word of the day, I think. That's a great word. So the quality decayed in the last year, especially in poor places where it's very difficult to carry a class with students, brings different problems from their houses. Yeah. And I guess it's a problem as well because I imagine everywhere they were doing classes remotely, and that can be very difficult because not all students will necessarily have a computer or a laptop or a phone even to participate in the class, so that can sort of take away. And I guess the way the interaction is more difficult for teachers. It's a very difficult interaction for some of the teachers to do that and to handle that. And I guess it's in a lot of ways it comes back to the approach, because a lot of the way that classes are taught is, well, some classes are through theoretical exercises. They're just from books. and some maybe that just doesn't resonate, that doesn't connect with some students. Some students need to be more hands-on. Get that down. Some students need to be say more hands-on to compare, because maybe they are doing some work with their hands. For some students, they're just studying from a book and just doing exercises from a book. That doesn't connect with them. It doesn't, make sense to them. But if it's something more where they can touch, or they're doing, I mean, that's why like science is so good for some, because they're actually doing physical things, and they can see, and they can touch, and they can influence what happens. It's the same like when they're teaching, maths, not all maths, but certainly some maths. You can do very practical things as opposed to just doing exercises from a book. Same with English. I guess, isn't it? Okay, Sonia, so you're saying there's also crowded classrooms is another problem. The teachers can't offer the necessary attention, to each student when they have 30 or more students. Absolutely, in each class. That's always going to be a problem. And I guess the teacher. The teacher has to make a decision, and different teachers will maybe make a decision one way, or they'll mix a few different ways of doing things. So maybe for some things, they may know who the stronger students are, and they will say, okay, we'll set this activity, and then the teacher will go and help the weaker students to do that activity, so to coach them more, which in some way takes away the potential progress of the students who are picking things up very quickly. They pick things up, they understand things very quickly, when they're picking things up. And so other times they may try and pair them or have groups. So you have like a couple of strong students, couple of weak students, and they get them working together as a way of sort of bringing everyone together. Could be the thing as well, but it's, it can be difficult to organize for the teacher to decide how to prioritize their what they're doing. And it gets harder, I suppose, when you get to the secondary school, because well, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no, because I know secondary school you could have different levels of the basic subjects. So like if you had maths, language, maybe science, what else? Whatever the core subjects. The core subjects would say in the core subjects. Let's change that sentence. So in the core subjects, students would be placed into classes based on assessment. Let's say assessment results from the previous year, quite commonly. You might have like the classic is going to be maths. So you have a top maths class, and then like maths 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So you try and group the stronger students together so the stronger ones can progress, but you can't do that in every class, I suppose. So that's it's a difficult one. And in primary school, everyone's in the class together anyway. But if you have the one teacher for the one group, they will know the class well, and they will know if some students excel at a particular subject or not, and can help them with that. Okay, so let's have a look at a few questions, and let me know what you think. And for pretty, I guess, sometimes topical sentences. So how long should school be compulsory for? When should a student be able to pick their own subjects? Excuse me. Should homework be mandatory or even given at all? And what should be taught in school that isn't now? Maybe there's something that you think is lacking in terms of just a general subject. So from my point of view, the most important problem in the crisis is students' family environment. Sadly, this crisis is reflected in the school. Students reflect what they live in their homes. Yeah, I think that can be true. I think that can be true. I guess it's going to depend on the individual for that sort of thing, isn't it? Because it could be that when they get to school, it's a relief from what they see and what they experience when they're at home, and then it can be an escape from that, so they can potentially excel or try. But that's a difficult thing, and it doesn't always work like that. It's also, hopefully, teachers. Let's get that. So hopefully, teachers can pick up on any signs of problems for students. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. And that's for both if there's a problem learning and if it's just a problem to do with the environment. But sometimes it can be hard to tell, and maybe some teachers haven't been trained to pick up the signs or to identify the signs of different issues, like I say, for learning and also for environment. Like you say, the students' family environment could be very poor, and just difficult for them to do anything when they're at home. And if teachers can't, pick it up, it's a problem. Many students can fall through the cracks. So the cracks are like you think of a road or something. You have like a crack in the road where something can fall down or go inside, go down. And this happens. Like like you say, uh, when you have a crowded classroom and the students can't give the necessary attention, sometimes teachers, or it could be anyone else, they work on autopilot. They just sort of go through their routine. They just go through whatever they need to do. And because there are so many people, they just can't pick up on what's happening with individual students. It becomes a blur. Show that in a second, but yeah, it becomes a blur for them. So that can be an additional problem. Let me just do a quick reminder to say that this is Have a Tea with Me. We are here for English language students or people who are looking to practice English. This is an opportunity for you if you want to practice your speaking or conversation skills every day at 12 o'clock Universal Time. We are here. From the channel is Lesson Jigsaw. If you click on the link in the comments or in the chat, you can come through and you can speak with me and chat about whatever you like. Today we're talking about school stuff, a little bit about memories from school and that sort of thing, and also things to change in schools. And if 12 o'clock Universal Time, you're watching this on the replay, and 12 o'clock Universal Time is not good for you, send us an email, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com, and you can let us know where you're from, what your local time is, and if you would like to find another time, tell us what times and days are better for you. We can see if we can find another time to do a live stream with you. Okay. Okay. I'm in. So Sonia's answered the first question here. School should be compulsory from kindergarten to university. In your country, there are a lot of public universities. So when you say public universities, does that mean it's for free to complete a degree, or do they have to pay to complete a degree? In Australia, we have some degrees. If there are certain areas that the government feels where they need more graduates for a particular area. So there have been some changes recently for things like the education profession and for things like nursing and doctors and that sort of thing. If people want to go into those fields, they have students, local students anyway, have a subsidy. So the cost is significantly lower than for other subjects. But that's changed recently. But those sort of things. Whereas if you want to do something like, I don't know, accounting or something with finance or business in particular, those sorts of things, they can be very expensive degrees. But there's no more, for a long time, there's no more free degrees for people. It's interesting. The ones who took away the um, free public tertiary education were the ones who benefited from those policies. But but yeah, I certainly admire countries that provide. I think that's certainly a step, if it is truly open for people, and if there is some assistance to those who need it, because I don't know, you never know what you could be missing. I think for a country, if you don't, well, if opportunities could be missed, like they say, you never know. You never know who the next Einstein might be, or you never know who the next Marie Curie may be. And so we need to nurture. Need to nurture. Yeah, nurture students to their potential. That's a bit. I know it's a bit utopian, a bit idealistic, but in general, that's what should happen. You have lots of companies that say they do those sorts of things, but I also find lots of places are restrictive. So they need lots of. I notice that lots of places you need qualifications to do something, whereas the ability to learn on the job, so to speak, is very much restricted these days. There are some. If you're talking about places like fast food and that sort of stuff, a lot of the blue collar work. So a lot of the blue collar work, they you still have like apprenticeships and that sort of thing. So you start from nothing, and they will train you. You might get the same maybe in hairdressing. A lot of the hands-on jobs. But yeah, the need even for those, you need to, in a lot of places, I'm not sure about everywhere, but a lot of places you still need to have different qualifications or certificates, or have some type of accreditation to even do whatever could be the most basic sort of role for good reason sometimes. Like in Australia, even to work in a bar, if you're working in a bar, and if it's all of Australia, I guess it's all of Australia, I'm not sure. It's state to state, the rules, but if you're serving alcohol to someone, you need to generally have had or completed a course about responsible serving of alcohol. So basically identifying if someone is drunk or too drunk, and you shouldn't give them more, basically. And that sort of thing. So, but you need to have done a course, which, is a good, again, that's similar to like what we were saying before, like with the other types of exams. It's good for a lot of companies that like to do a course, and they just do the same course over and over and over again. And it's easy money, because it's like everyone in the industry, or anyone who wants to try and get a job, has to have completed that. In Australia, you have lots of backpackers and people on working holiday visas. So there's maybe not with COVID at the moment, but coming back again, who go into bars and they need to get that accreditation. So there's almost a constant flow of people who need to do those courses. And it can be same for the people when doing roadworks and that sort of stuff. So the people holding the stop and go signs have to have training and that sort of stuff. And like I say, it's for some things it's a good thing, but and they want things standardized. But it's interesting that the way they do the standardization is external rather than internal. So they don't give the accreditation to the company to say you can train your own people. They outsource that. Well, it has to be someone independent. So maybe the companies don't want that responsibility. Could be the other side of that. Anyway, so, and just as a note, yeah, so you have blue collar work and white collar work. So blue collar work is to do, I guess, with traditional work attire or traditional work clothes. So blue collar work are very much the hands-on jobs. So things like plumbers, electricians, plumbers, electricians, and so on. And white collar work is like generally stuff like office sort of work. So you'll see people wearing because the collar is I don't have one now, but the thing can move up and down. The collar is the thing that makes the difference between a t-shirt and a shirt, effectively. I suppose you could have if you think of a polo shirt as well, that has like a little less firm, let's say, but it has a collar, nevertheless. Okay. But that's interesting. Yeah, I think I would say. See, I'm not sure if I agree necessarily with if in terms of the current form. I certainly think education should be available to all people as a basic thing. But I think sometimes with things for university, if we're directing people towards university, it can be a bit too narrow. I know there are other subjects like with humanities and arts and that sort of stuff, but I think there should be from an earlier age, and I guess there has been anyway for many years in some ways, but in a more formalized way, if you like. Like if someone's going, look, I'm not really getting this physics stuff, and this science stuff is not really for me, and these languages that we're learning and the geography, I mean, it's good to know, but it's just not for me. But what I am interested in is cars, or what I am interested in is painting or whatever. I think there should be more room for students to follow from a younger age, to follow a path that's more interesting for them. And the things that are the fundamentals, the basics, I think, and this is sort of moving into perhaps question 4, what should be taught in school that isn't now. I think there should be more sort of basic fundamentals about life and how to manage life. So like in terms of like general banking, how banking works, and uh, how to how to save money, and how interest works, and that sort of stuff. How to do maths, uh, in the sense that you don't necessarily. I understand, sometimes you're learning to learn how to learn. So like you're not going to necessarily use all these equations. Some people will, but a lot of people won't use like the equations you see in maths books. But certainly a lot of people should be able to do what would say mental arithmetic. So I'll bring that on the screen in a sec. Arithmetic. So things like mental arithmetic, I see this so many times. It's like you buy something in the shop, and it's like you buy two items. One is, let's say, $1, and the other is 40 cents. And the person in the shop is getting the calculator, and they're doing $1 plus 40 cents. And I'm like, I'm in shock, first of all. And then I give them $2. And you can imagine what happens next. So they do $2 minus $1.40. And like that sort of stuff, I think that's the sort of stuff that, the kids are going to get, and be able to do, and being able to manage, how to manage their finances, learning how to, clean things, or things that are more practical for their life. Basic. I'm not sure if there's much home economics in the schools these days, but learning how to cook a variety of meals. So like the absolute basics, plus maybe a little bit more, so they can be self-sufficient as much, but basic life essentials, rather than knowing the capital cities. And they're good to know, like, and what river is where, and that sort of stuff, and bits of history. Absolutely, all nice stuff to know. But at the end of the day, those things are more novelty items compared to, you might use it like when you watch a TV show, like, I don't know, like a quiz show, and you go, oh, okay, what is the capital of Djibouti? Oh, okay, got it. But the practical skills that they need for life, maybe how to handle different situations, and you see it now, like managing and handling mental health in stressful situations, getting resilience, and being able to adapt to different situations. I am talking a lot, aren't I? So from my point of view, says Sonia, from my point of view, a student should be able to pick their own subject from the last 2 years of secondary school. The last 2 years. That's interesting. That is interesting. Yeah, because I think I'm not sure what it's like in Australia now, but I know in other countries that's similar. That's interesting. I think that's too late myself. I think that's too late. I remember in Australia, we could pick some subjects. We could pick in going into high school, is what we would call year 7. And again, it could be different in different states. But where I was in year 7, you would pick. In year 7, you do all the subjects, the basic subjects, and then I think in year 8, from year 8 and year 9, you could pick 2 subjects. I think it was. You had the choice of 2 subjects, and I think that's right. And then for year 10, maybe you had 1 more. And then for if you continued on to year 11 and 12, you could pick a couple more, something like that. You had to, it was a bit sort of like university in a way. You had to have, I think for your score, it was like at that time anyway, it was like your results were based on your 10 best subject units, I think, of which maths and English were the compulsory ones, and then everything else was the choice, if you like. Well, it was sort of like was a mix of the best subject areas, and you could drop some subjects, something like that. It's not exactly, but you had the ability to drop some marks. So if you were stronger in some subjects, you would then focus your attention on that. But certainly I'm pretty sure it was year 8. If not year 8, definitely year 9. So basically you could have 4 years of choosing subjects. But I guess you could put the argument 2 ways. You could say at school, you should be taught the subjects, and then, like you say, in the final couple of years, choose things that are more for your specialty, with the argument that you have all this other free time outside of school to focus on other things if you want to. You know, if it's such a strong desire for you to learn those other things or do those other things, you could, do those other subjects. Or the opinion could be, maybe from a younger age, you could move towards that specialization in a more formal way, i.e. in the schooling system. Maybe. I don't know. I certainly don't think it, it's not, let's get this expression down. It's not one size fits all, to use an expression. So it's not, the same thing is not going to work for everyone, I think. The same thing is not going to suit everyone. That's why I think the core subjects should be, yes, you need language, but it's language to communicate and how you communicate and that sort of thing. In practical situations, it's things like literature, like learning Shakespeare is okay, but why when I'm, like 13 or 14, maybe it was, why when I'm 14, why I need to dedicate, X amount of my time learning Shakespeare instead of learning, how to write, I don't know if writing a CV, it's too early, but to write maybe more creatively, or to write a letter to ask for a job, not necessarily the CV, but just like a cover to ask for a job, or to write a letter to complain about something, or to praise something, things that are more, potentially more practical, those sort of things. And that's where, like, if you're thinking, okay, but I really like to learn some classic writing, so I'd like to learn, about Macbeth and all that sort of stuff. And that's where I think you have the electives, where you can choose your subjects. And that's where I think if you have those core subjects that are practical, human-based, real life-based, I don't know. I think that could work a lot for a lot of people, but some people may not choose, may choose things that are not particularly beneficial for them at the end. So they need to be guided. And I guess, you can have teachers and other people to help with that. But yeah, I'm not sure if the core subjects, the multitude of core subjects that they have now, are necessarily the best for so long, I think. In Argentina, students choose their specialties, so like economics or social science, natural language. Natural language, I guess, does that mean like the national language, like what they speak in the country, as in Spanish in Argentina, or does that mean of not the foreign language, I guess? Art, PI. What's PI? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if PI, when you say PI, if you mean PE, perhaps. I'm not sure what PI is. It comes up with some things, but is it something to do with engineering or something, maybe? PI. I'm not sure what PI. Could be PE, which is physical education, I'm guessing. Okay, yep, so physical education. All right. But PI did come up as a type of, maybe they abbreviate PI for physics or product and industrial engineering. Okay. But STEM is the I guess the catchphrase now, isn't it? That people like to talk about. So science, technology, so I think it's English, isn't it? Is it English? Ooh. And mathematics. But yeah. No, see, I knew it was going to be that. I knew it. It's not English. Engineering. I had engineering in my head. Yeah. So science, technology, engineering, and maths are the buzz words. So natural science. Okay. And so when they're in the 4th year in secondary school, so okay. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I do think there are many ways to go. Natural science is it's an interesting one, because we do science for a long time, don't we? I know science is important, of course. It's a key subject, I guess. But we learn science from almost the beginning, even without necessarily knowing that we're doing science. Because we do, even like in kindergarten and stuff, we do some different like experiments without knowing we're doing experiments, and that sort of thing. But I still think that doing things that are practical and useful as humans, and for assist people in their lives, in their practical lives, is certainly more beneficial than some of the areas that are being taught. But I don't know; those sort of things don't really change in some ways. So I guess that's certainly what I think when I think about what should be taught in a school that isn't covered now, are those things like those practical subjects. Sometimes they are, sometimes not. Homework should be mandatory in order to improve the learning process. Interesting. I wonder what would happen if homework was given, but it's optional. I'm not sure if there have been many experiments with that to see. Because I guess there's always a different feeling, like with anything, if you have to do something compared to doing it if you want to. Yeah, it's a curious one. I don't know. I'm in two minds about that, and certainly because I guess the question then that needs to be followed up is how much homework. So if you do have mandatory homework, how much of that homework, or how much homework should there be? If it should be limited in terms of like pages, and then like across subjects, should it be homework in terms of a total? Because they don't really coordinate their homework, I'm pretty sure, across all the different subjects. Because how much, it's the same like with just work in general. How much, if someone goes to work and they do their work and then they bring work home, how much work should they bring home? Should the time at home be time to focus on their own things? If you have all these, say, mandatory subjects to follow their own interests, should there be more time for that? Should they be following or just be studying more and more and more, practicing for more exams all the time, always feeling under pressure, feeling stressed all the time that there's got a quiz next week and then an exam for this, an exam for that, and testing all the time. Then I've got all these assignments that are due and that sort of thing. So should there be like an hour, 2 hours? I mean, how long are people going to school? I do remember, I think it was maybe it was in China, maybe it was in Hong Kong. There was a documentary, I think, where what they did is they had, I think some Chinese, I'm not sure if it was just they sent the teachers or the students, but I think they sent some students, Chinese students, to England to try their schooling system for a month, and then had some of the Chinese students, English students, go to China for a month, something along those lines, to see how they would go. And then like there's obviously the culture shock of having so many hours and starting so early in the morning, having all the classes, and then having for some of them like extra tutorial sessions, and then completing all the homework, 3, 4, 5 hours of homework, and you know all that sort of stuff. It's a lot. It's interesting. So the reason was to improve the learning process. It's interesting. I wonder how that happens. How do they improve the learning process? Is it because they're away from distractions, perhaps, away from the other kids? Or is it, I don't know, or they have to sort of look independently, so without necessarily straight away asking for the teacher or putting up their hand straight away, they need to think a little bit? Or is it just the repetition and reinforcing something through repetition? Interesting. Like Sonia mentioned before, interesting. But I still would go back to what I mentioned before, to say that it's not one size fits all. That it doesn't sort of work. And I know they do have, like in some countries, if not all countries, like they have gifted learners and that sort of stuff, like programs for some students. But I think not nearly enough, because surely every student is going to be gifted in a particular way, or for a particular subject or area. They just perhaps haven't discovered it yet. Perhaps the thing that they're good at or best at or suited to is something that's not covered in a normal school curriculum. And there's a lot of demotivation and disinterest by going through all of the different mandatory subjects in school. And then they come out with after their compulsory school years, they come out with a negative feeling about learning and education. Maybe. Oh, I like this, Sonia. Okay, nice. Schools should teach nutrition, how to manage our feelings in difficult situations. Yeah, I like those ideas. Absolutely. Nutrition, certainly. Absolutely. In fact, I would probably even take it a step further and say that all schools should provide nutrition as much as possible. I know there's lots of stuff with dietary requirements and that sort of thing, but I think if certainly at a place like a school, if every kid could get some type of let's say earthy dish would be very beneficial. So something that's not fried up or oily and greasy, or just like chips and that sort of thing, or crisps, or or ice cream and that sort of stuff. But I think if they can certainly learn about those things and the effects, and I don't think necessarily teaching just from the book and the text on a book and a couple of photos in the textbook is always the way to go with that sort of stuff. I think certainly that would certainly help with a lot of the problems later in life, and then people have the choice. They can choose to accept or take on board, if you like, and make it part of their life, or contribute to their life, what they learn about nutrition, or or they can choose to ignore it and do their own thing. Of course, people can be what they want, but I certainly think that's a very good thing to give people. I think certainly that should be a fundamental, more than just I'm not sure if you had the same thing in Argentina, Sonia, but with remember the healthy diet pyramid? Did you have that? Where you had like the base, was it, or the fruit and vegetables, and then you had like I think it was the breads, and then the meat, and then the oils and fats and stuff, or something along those lines. Maybe I don't remember it very well, and I didn't learn very well, perhaps. But I remember that was effectively it. But more effective nutrition, practical. I think practical is certainly the way to go. And then, like you say, how to manage feelings in difficult situations, because sometimes nutrition and what you eat, I think, can affect the second part as well. If you eat too much sugary stuff or too much salty stuff, it can affect your mood and how you're feeling and what you're doing. So certainly how food and those sorts of things influence what you do, how you feel, how you react to different things. Yeah. I think that's a good subject as well. Very good. How to manage difficult situations. I don't think when I was at school, anything like that was ever covered, unless there was an actual situation. Like if I remember sometimes there was like some students would get like very sick or something, or like we're in a car accident and things like that. So you would have things like that. But if it wasn't for that, there was no subject about that sort of thing, or for someone dying or passing away or whatever. There was no real, unless it actually happened in someone's personal real life, or someone close to you, like a close friend in the school, you would never really have that. And maybe just touching on it in a story or something, like going back to Shakespeare or something, where someone dies, you go, so how would that person have felt or something? But no practical steps for real situations. I wonder if here's an expression. Right. Maybe that one goes into the too hard basket. I'm not sure if you have an expression like this, the too hard basket. So if you have something like, how do you manage that sort of situation and go, too hard, too difficult, let's not do it, or let's save that for another teacher or another school or whatever. So we have this expression, put it in the too hard basket. We'll leave it for someone else. I wonder if it's something like that. Students should have knowledge about how to manage food, how to cook healthy food, and choose the best option according to their economic possibility. Yeah. Economical it's very similar, but economical is more to do with the value, if you like, or the cost compared to um, production, let's say. So like you might think of like an economical car is a car that perhaps goes for a long time on a tank of petrol. But a car that's not economical, like it might only go like 100 kilometers with a full tank of petrol, but an economical car would go, I don't know, 500 kilometers or something. But it's closer economics, about the economics, or the economy is just about money, basically. So the economic situation. But economical is sort of giving the situation in terms of the actual a low price compared to a low price, relative compared to the benefit or the value that's produced. Yeah, it's a tricky one. It is definitely a tricky word with that. But yeah, it's actually one thing that really annoys me is that and I'm sure it would have been the opposite before, but well, actually, this is not always true, really. But if you're talking about prepared dishes, if you're buying the raw ingredients, maybe it's a different story. But if you're buying a prepared dish, the unhealthy dishes or foods, products, are always cheaper than the healthy ones. Almost always. It's like when people go, if they want to get, for example, they go and get a smoothie, and these are not necessarily always the best in terms of calories and that sort of thing. But if you had the choice between a smoothie or a cola drink or like a lemonade sort of drink, generally, like a cola type drink would be cheaper because of the mass production compared to a smoothie, which is generally using fresh products. You could also get like a bottled version, I guess, and that sort of thing, but using fresh products is going to be more expensive. And then with like a lemonade, if it's like a bottled or pre-prepared one compared to a freshly made one and that sort of stuff, because the nutritional value of the fresh ones can be better, because you have the natural ingredients without too many, hopefully, additives, whereas with the sugar and salt in other things. But, well, okay, yes, and it can be cheaper and easier to prepare if you have the this is the problem then, if you're having the raw ingredients, and if you know how to use the raw ingredients. I think this is why people like that's actually a strange thing. That's why people like this is people like the traditional, and people like is to compare. Oh, it's not. Well, it's a bit more difficult. That's why people like, let's say people such as, to make it a bit easier. Let's make that. Cooks or chefs. That's why people like cooks such as Jamie Oliver, because I think he's someone, I assume he's pretty much around the world. In most places I seem to have seen Jamie Oliver stuff here and there. But he seems to cook pretty healthy a lot of the time, but is using the base raw ingredients. And he doesn't necessarily spend too much time with preparation, as in doing like little fiddly things. It's more like get that, tear it up, chuck it in, So it's very easy to do rather than spending a lot of time like cutting everything really finely and then preparing, like spending 30, 40 minutes preparing. People just want to get in, put some stuff on, get out. And it's that can be hard after a long day, studying, working, whatever, doing different things. So yes. But if they are taught, that's like you say, how to manage food and to cook healthy food, and that they can do things in a cheaper and easier way in terms of some preparations. Obviously, other things can be more elaborate. That can certainly be very good. I agree. Nice ideas. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to leave it very shortly. We're going to go. And just a reminder that if you're liking and subscribing, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. That helps me, but we want to help you. And so you writing and you speaking in English is the thing that really helps you, and that's the impact that we want to have. So thank you very much, Sonia, for contributing today. Good to hear from you again. We are going to leave it there for today. So this has been Have a Tea with me on the Lesson Jigsaw channel, 12 o'clock Universal Time every Monday to Friday. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget, you can send us an email, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. If there's another time that suits, you can send us an email with your details, time zone, and dates and times that are good for you, that sort of thing. And we can see if we can figure something out. Okay, Sonia, thank you very much. Have a great day. And thank you everyone who's watching on the replay. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Take